right, hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Dana and I am a houseplant enthusiast. I live in the Midwest and I live in a 967 square feet condo that is very dark. It's dark because I only have 3 windows. Well, I have 4 windows technically. I have 3 east-facing windows and 1 south-facing window in my bedroom. And basically, I get morning light, especially in the summertime. And of course, in the wintertime, it's even darker in here. So, like I said, I like dark and moody. So I painted all my walls dark, as you can see behind me. I like dark and moody stuff. So I had no idea that I was going to be having 160 houseplants in my condo. And I had to do a lot of supplementing lighting with grow lights for my plants because you need light. So let there be light. But anywho, this video is all about everything that I wish I knew before I even started in the plant hobby. So if you are new to the plant hobby, welcome. Welcome and congratulations for being a new plant parent. If you've already had plants and maybe you're struggling a little bit with your plants, keeping them alive like many of us have. And to be honest with you, I think no matter how long you've been in this hobby, it is a struggle to keep all of your plants healthy, happy, and alive. So don't feel bad if you lose plants or, if you kill a couple plants, because we all have and we all still do. But these are the things that I really, really, really wish I knew before I even tapped into this, right? If I had to go back to 6 months ago when I first started, and I am a fast learner, but if I had to go back 6 months and if I could sit down and have a conversation with the past Dana from 6 months ago before she bought her first house plant, these are the things that I would sit down and tell her. So I'm going to tell you guys, right? Because I wish I found this video. So number one, the first thing that I would go back and tell her is to be very picky with her plants. Be picky. I think what happens is we don't really know, right? We don't really know exactly what our goal is, what our aim is for houseplants. I think for me, in the very beginning, I had just moved into this condo in February, and I always wanted to have houseplants. I've killed plants in the past, and I was like, well, do I really want to try again? Because I think that I just don't have a green thumb, and I keep killing houseplants. So, but I was like, yeah, I want plants in my house. It's a new condo. I'm not renting, I'm buying. So I do want my home to look, like a jungle-like vibe or have nice plants. So I went out and, like most of us, went to the garden center and just bought a couple of plants, and they were okay. But I really still wasn't, it still didn't click. The houseplant thing just still didn't click. I had got one houseplant as a housewarming gift, and then I had bought a couple of other plants. But it really, really didn't happen for me until I was at work at the end of July, and I received a phone call that my older sister had died. And I stayed at work for a little bit because I'm a workaholic. And I was just thought to myself, well, I could be here at work sad. I could be at home sad. But, I could be making money. I know that might sound pretty bad, but at the same time, I just deal with death a little differently. But some point in that night, I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was sobbing, I was crying, I was puking. And I just thought it was best that I went home. So on my way home, I left work. And on my way home, I drove by Home Depot, and I was like, you know what? Let me go in here and see if I can just, find a couple of plants in memorial to my sister. I want to get her some plants. And like I said, it was the end of July going into August, and they happened to have a 50% off sale. And I'm not for sure if it was 50% off on all houseplants, but I think it was 50% off on a lot of plants. So long story short, I ended up purchasing $400 worth of plants for $200. I had 13 plants total. I remember it like it was yesterday. I still have out of those 13 plants, I probably have about 5 of them left. I didn't even know the name of these plants. Like, looking back at it now, like a Monstera deliciosus, like I didn't know what the name of that plant was when I picked it up. I just knew that it was big. It was one of the plants that I saw on YouTube, and I just picked it up. So I picked up 13 plants. And like I said, I probably still have 5 of them. But even after that, I was still going to Home Depot afterwards and buying plants. And then my plants started to do bad. They were dying. And I just was like, oh no, like what the hell am I doing wrong? So I would take a picture of a plant because like I said, I didn't know the names of these. I would take a picture of a plant, Google it, and then on, Google Lens, find the name, and then look that name up on YouTube and find care videos for each and every one of these plants. And as I got to watching the videos, I started to kind of take a liking to some of the YouTubers. So I would watch more and more of their videos. And as I start watching the videos, that's when I discovered that, hey, there's a big difference between just common household plants and rare household plants, as well as investment plants. So if I could go back and talk to her, I would tell her to, hey, slow down on your buying. And I know that I've seen people in groups where they say, oh, I bought 200 plants in the last couple of months. And my first question is, what type of plants are you buying? Because yeah, if you're spending $4 on, those little nursery pot plants, or, $10 on pothos, and you have like 12 pothos in your collection, and, 5 snake plants in your collection, and, different types of plants that you can find at big box stores, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. But I had even told my best friend that, hey, you know what? I'm going to stop buying just any and every house plant that I can get my hands on and start investing into more rare house plants and spending my money on more rare house plants. So I would sit down and tell the past Dana that before you go out here and spend $200 on 13 common household plants, why don't you invest in another plant that is more valuable? Spend that $100 to $200 on maybe 1 to 4 more rare and more valuable house plants. That way, as they grow and you propagate them, you could sell them and recoup your money, versus buying a pothos where I can make a cutting and maybe possibly sell the cutting for $3 or $4 or $5, and versus getting a very highly variegated pink princess, philodendron pink princess, propagate it, make 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 plants, and resell that at a higher rate than a regular pothos or something like that. So that was my thought. Shortly after I got into the plant hobby. And I still don't think I was into the plant hobby just yet, not really grasping everything, but I was getting there. So I stopped buying just the old run-of-the-mill regular common house plant that you could see in anybody's home, and start investing in more expensive more rare plants. Basically, it boils down to just the more expensive plants, right? That you just can't find at Lowe's or Home Depot or Kroger's or any store that you can just basically just walk into. So I did start looking up local nurseries because prior to that, I didn't even know that nurseries really existed, never paid attention to them. So I started looking up more nurseries here in my area in Indianapolis, Indiana, and start visiting the nurseries to see what type of plants they had. But what I would do is just, go to YouTube and watch as many videos as possible, start jotting down names of plants, and I'll be like, okay, I'm interested in that particular plant. I want to find that particular plant, and I will go out and look for it. And then I discovered buying plants online, which I will get into that a little bit later, and just start buying more plants that were even more special. And I just started noticing that the plants that I had just randomly just picked up, I really don't really love those plants. I really don't have a passion for growing just the run-of-the-mill fern, right? Ferns, I bought a fern because it was available and I thought it was something that I should have in my home. But really, that fern is still here, but it's not thriving because I pay the least amount of attention to it. The plants that I pay the most amount of attention to are the more rare houseplants, the plants that are Instagrammable. And call me shallow or whatever you want, but that's the truth. That's where I'm at. And those are the plants that I really gravitate towards. I pay the most attention to. I look at every day, want to see their progress, because I've seen what these plants can look like based on other people's photos or other people's YouTube videos. So those are the plants that I gravitated more towards in my collection. If I'm going to have a collection and call it a collection, then that's what I want it to be. I want it to be a collection of plants that are highly sought after and that are more of investment like plants, and plants that I can't just go to somebody's house and see the same plant unless they are heavily into the plant hobby like I am. That pretty much boils down to that. The next thing that I would go back and tell my past self is, child, get you a moisture meter. When I tell you that this thing has saved my plants, I can't even lie, because I had no clue how to water plants. And as simple as that is, I struggled with keeping my plants alive simply because I had no idea how to water them. And like many of my friends that have houseplants that aren't really into the houseplant hobby, who are still, struggling with their plants, a lot of it is due to overwatering, root rot, and underwatering plants. So I tell all of my friends, get you a moisture meter. If you don't do anything else, get you a moisture meter, because once you put this into the soil and it tells you if your plants are dry or if they're wet or if they're moist, that determines if it's time to water your plant or not, right? And it's super easy. And once you get used to understanding that and noting that, okay, this is what my plant looks like and this is what my pot feels like when it's super wet, when it's moist, or when it's dry, and that starts to register in your mind, that is when you can kind of start picking up plants and saying, oh, it feels kind of dry, or it's pretty heavy, so it's still got water in there. And you kind of learn from there how to gauge on doing that. And a lot of people say do the finger test, but the finger test, even still for me, is iffy. It's still iffy. But If I have any questions, I go to my moisture meter, and that kind of alleviates any doubt on whether or not I should be watering my plants. But as time progresses, the best way to learn about your plants is to pay attention to them. And I tell everybody that every plant is different. Every home environment is different. Just because my plant thrives in my environment doesn't mean it will thrive in your environment. And your home might have more humidity, might have different lighting situations, and all of that varies, and all of that makes a difference in whether or not your plant needs to be watered once a week, twice a week, once a month. Everything varies. And so learning your plant, understanding your plant, watching your plant, being aware of your plant, it's like having a child. Every child you have is not the same. You might have one child that loves ice cream. You might have another child that can't stand ice cream because it makes them go to the bathroom. It's like they're, lactose intolerant. You have to understand each one of your children and watch them and see how they're behaving to certain situations and to certain things. And it's no different with plants. You have to pay attention to your plants. Your plants will tell you if they need more light, if they need more watering, if they're not happy in the situation that they're in. Pay attention to your plants. Really, that's what it boils down to. Another thing that I would go back and tell my past self is, Dana, stop repotting everything that you buy immediately. Like, I've killed so many alocasias just from purchasing them, trying to find corms, and repotting them immediately when I get them home. And other plants, right? So when you purchase a plant from the store, I recommend, I don't care, this is just my recommendation, okay? Take what resonates with you and leave the rest behind. But what I've learned, especially with alocasias, is not to touch them when I first get them. Don't, like, if they're happy already when you get them from the big box stores, or when you get them from wherever you get them from, if they are thriving and they are happy, why the fuck are we messing with them? Why are we messing with them? If they don't have roots coming out the bottom that are screaming, hey, I need a bigger pot, then why are we repotting them? So when I was repotting my alocasias, immediately when I got them from the big box stores, they just died. They died. And it took me a minute to figure out that the main reason why they were struggling and why they kept dying on me when I brought them home was because I was repotting them. So my advice would be, stop repotting. Stop repotting them. I'm going to show you one second. So I think I got this one 2 weeks ago. I even still have the price tag on it from Lowe's. I saw these. And Lowe's is they're getting better. They're getting really better at supplying alocasias. So, and I'm an alocasia fan. I have 40% of my collection is alocasias. So you will hear me talk a lot about alocasias on this channel because I'm a fan of them. I love them. It's the genius that I flock to the most. And so I just bought this 2 weeks ago. All I do is water it. I have not checked the soil for corms because eventually if you're like me, and eventually I just was like overwhelmed with corms. I have so many corms growing right now that I am just overwhelmed because, like I said, 40% of my collection is alocasias. So I have a lot of corms that are rooting, that are starting, that are that I've collected and or harvested. So I'm not too terribly worried about it. The only time I would stress about finding corms is if my main plant was struggling and I thought I was going to lose it. Then I would definitely go look for corms and get them started. But I haven't repotted this. I haven't touched it. The only thing I've done is kept it water, and this is a very thirsty plant. I have been watering this. I've probably watered this about every 4 days. So, but she's doing well. She's not suffering. She's not suffering. So I have no reason to repot her at all. So she has been left in this pot and will remain in this pot until I see that she's outgrowing this pot, or if I see any other issues. I don't know what soil is in here. Whatever it is, she's happy, and I'm going to keep her there. She's very happy. She's very happy. So another thing, and I have my notes here, so I'm looking at my notes. Pests. I recommend that you look into pests now, because if you're new, like I was new 6 months ago, I didn't know what pests look like. I didn't know what pests. I've heard of it. I've heard people talking about thrips. I've heard people talking about mealybugs and spider mites, but I didn't look into them, and I didn't know what they look like on plants. I didn't know that some of my houseplants had pest issues. Pest control. You definitely want to check out pest videos on thrips, videos on spider mites, mealybugs. See what they look like on your plants, because if you don't know what they look like, you're gonna not be able to take care of your plant. It could kill your plant. If you're not aware of what they look like. So yeah, it's really important to understand and to know what pests look like on your plants, because if you're unaware of it, then your plants could die from not taking care of the leaves when they have pests on them. So like I said, I've killed a couple plants in my care have died because they had pests, and I had no idea that they had spider mites or what was going on with them. So I highly suggest looking up pests on plants, mealybugs, thrips, and spider mites mainly. And do go out and get you some neem oil or fungicide sprays, spider mites, repellents, or whatever, those little satchels, the beneficial mites. Go get you some pest prevention. I will start now, and I know that a lot of people, or some people have said, oh, I don't have a pest issue. I've even said it before that I didn't have a pest issue, but it was very early on in my collecting. And believe me, they come. The pest will come. And you need to stay up on it. And it's very important if you want your plant collection to stay healthy and also to look good. So definitely jump on the pest control. Another thing that I would also say is about nutrients. So it's really important to understand fertilizing. I didn't understand anything about fertilizing. And when I heard that I need to fertilize my plants, especially in the spring and summertime, I went out and got like Miracle-Gro, the pump spray. And I think the directions said if you have a bigger pot, 2 pumps, smaller pots, 1 pump. And it just wasn't working. I would do that, and it was definitely giving me a fertilizer burn, and the signs were showing in my plants, and it just wasn't working for me. So I did do some research on fertilizers and came across I was using GT foliage, which I heard from Sydney Plant Guy, of course, and I was using that for a while. And then I had switched over to this one just recently, and I've been trying this, and it has been working pretty good. Also, silica. I will not go without silica. And once I found out Because silica gold is like steroids for your plant. It makes your plant stem stronger. It helps for the roots to uptake the nutrients that you're giving your plants. It's amazing, and I will be using this forever. Also, CalMag, especially if you have allocations in your collection, I definitely recommend that. And Rapid Start, you definitely want to use Rapid Start. This is like root crack, and there's some other things that I use, like especially when I repot my plants, but that is a totally different video. I will make a whole separate video on the nutrients and what I use and what I do when I repot my plants. But that is very important as well, so you want to jump on that as well. And another thing I would tell myself and my past self is, when buying online, how to be careful with scammers, right? So I buy majority of my plants from Estes and nurseries, and also from big box stores. So those are the main sources that I get my plants from. But I rarely buy plants on Facebook. I think I bought maybe 1 or 2 plants on Facebook. But you do want to be careful with scammers. There are scammers out here. There is a way that you can kind of filter on Estes to filter out any scammers. Definitely buy from the US. If you're living in the US, buy from where you're from, like that, and then look for 5-star ratings, things like that. But I can also make a separate video on that as well, about how to buy plants and not get scammed. But Estes is really good, because if you do have an issue, they will refund you, as well as PayPal will also refund you. And then I think that the last thing I would tell you guys, is that you don't have to buy everything, right? You don't have to. There will always, and I will tell the past Dana this, there will always be a trend in plants. There will always be a it plant, the it plant for 2024. So, I wouldn't take every single influencer's opinion about what plants you should be buying. Just like I can't tell you how to raise your children, or what to buy for your children. But I will say this, that there will always be a it plant. There will always be trending plants. The variegated this, the variegated that. You got to have this, you got to have that. There will always be a trending plant, no matter when you decide to start buying plants or when you decide to go out and purchase a new plant. So what is trending today might not be trending in the future. And also the prices of the plants. Now is a good time to jump into this hobby, because all the plants that you will be seeing, like if you go on YouTube and you watch YouTube videos, all the plants from the past 4 years that they are talking about and expressing about on their YouTube channels were extremely expensive. Even some of them were expensive when I got into the hobby just 6 months ago, but now they are extremely affordable, and the prices have dropped extremely. Like my Thai Constellation, when I first got my Thai, it was like one of the first rare houseplants that I purchased. I purchased it at a local nursery. It was about a good size. It had fenestrations already on it, and I purchased that plant for like $245. And now you can get a Thai Constellation for $50 because of tissue culture. And so the price came down. I don't regret buying my plant, the plant that I have, when I purchased it, and paying the amount of money that I paid for it, only because I have heard that because of tissue culture and because this plant has been multiplied so many times, that the variegation on these plants are not as great. And I've seen a couple of these plants, and I would have to agree that the variegation is not as great as they were. So I don't regret buying the one that I bought for the price that I bought it at. But I will say that wait a little while. Don't have to jump out here and go and buy a plant as soon as they say that's the plant. Everybody needs that plant, because eventually the price will drop. Eventually that price will drop and you can get it at a more affordable price. But all of the plants that they've been talking about for the last 4 years are definitely affordable now. So you can catch up real quick just by, jumping in now and going to purchase those plants. But like some plants run $5,000, $10,000, $7,000. I've seen, plants, even at plants for $300. I still won't purchase them. And there are cheaper ways of obtaining these popular, more expensive plants, and I'll do a separate video on that as well. But definitely grab your hands on you know, get you some plants that you enjoy, that you like. And like I said, I love alocasias, and there's nothing to be afraid of when it comes to alocasias. They're inexpensive. They grow very, very beautiful, and they reward you with lots of babies. So you buy one plant, the corms, you can harvest the corms and multiply these plants. You can resell them. These are, for me, the best investment plants because they're just so easy to multiply with the corms that come with these plants. But like I said, I have been posting videos before on Facebook. So if you see any vertical videos, they have came from Facebook. But if you are interested in alocasias, because I will be talking a lot about alocasias, like I said, 40% of my collection are alocasias. But if you are interested in growing alocasias, or you have alocasias and you're killing them, or you're just, want to know how to take care of them better, I suggest watching this video right here on alocasias that I have. And yeah, I will see you guys soon in another video.